So you were a little bit doom and gloom before this all started. You in a classroom full of children. You said it's touch and go whether we'll achieve the target of 1.5. You've talked about diffusing the doomsday bomb or the clock. Are you doom and gloom?
I think you've got to be doom and gloom, and you've got to remain doom and gloom until we really think that we have fixed this thing. This is a massive problem. I thought that David Attenborough's presentation yesterday morning was absolutely spellbinding because he set out for everybody to understand so clearly the link between the rise in carbon, the proportion of carbon in the world's atmosphere, and the rise in temperatures. And you could see that link over thousands of years, and then suddenly you see this spike in carbon and you see the beginnings of the rise in temperature. And you know what is going to come. And you can see the risk to the planet. And so the threat is huge. I think it's been very humbling, really, to listen to some of the testimonies from countries like Bangladesh or the Maldives, the Seychelles, people who are in the front line. And
so let me ask you about those.
So I think people have been really thinking about what more they can do.
Some of these frontline countries, including, like Barbados, I spoke to the Prime Minister yesterday, Mia Mottley. She's an amazing woman.
Brilliant.
And she actually gave a rip-roaring speech to the plenary.
Speech.
And she basically said she's calling code red on you all, particularly on China and some of the biggest polluters. But she also says that you all are kicking the can down the line. In other words, the rich countries, which are meant to provide, a lot of money, $100 billion per year to help mitigate the effects of climate change on the poorer or the more developing countries. It's not happening yet. Why not? These pledges have been made but not kept.
Well, I thought Mia's speech again was like Attenborough's. I thought it was David Attenborough's. I thought it was brilliant. And she set out the position of the small island nations, what they're really facing, the reality of more hurricanes, the reality of poverty and destitution as a result of climate change. And we have to recognise. So what I'm saying is we have to, before we claim that things are getting better or that we're making progress, we have to be humble in the face of the scale of the problem we have. This problem is huge. Now, are we starting to inch forward at COP? Yes, I think that arguably we are. And I think that in some important ways, you're seeing some good commitments on trees, today on forests, which is very important for tackling climate change. You're seeing some important contributions on accelerating the move away from coal. You heard a big announcement from Japan today about money to get to Mia Mottley's point. Now, we've got until the middle of the month. We've got less than 2 weeks to go. How much more progress can we make? And that's the issue. And everybody knows what we have to achieve. Everybody knows that we have to do enough. We have to commit enough to reducing CO2 output through reducing coal use, through stopping vehicular emissions from cars, planting more trees, and funding new technology around the world. We have to have a program that will enable us to say that we've kept alive the goal of only increasing temperatures by 1.5 degrees.
So will you then, because, clearly I ask all the leaders who I talk to, well, what are you doing to show that you're credible and that your nation is credible in these pledges, and it's not just rhetoric, that it's reality? So, as you know better than I do, there are coal fields coal digging planned for Cumbria in this country. And would you say that at this point, given everything you're saying to me now, you would intervene to stop that?
I don't have the legal powers. That's something for local planning.
But local planning has already ruled on it and it's come back to the government.
What we're already saying, and if you look at what has already happened in the UK, is we have moved away from coal at extraordinary speed. The story of UK coal, don't forget what happened in our country. We had, when I was a kid, we had 80% of our power came from coal. And when I was Mayor of London, when you interviewed me last time, it was 40%. All right? So between that interview, Christiane, and this one, we've gone from 40% to less than 1% in the space of 2 interviews.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. It's roughly that. And it's going to go down to zero by 2020.
So why not just say, as a matter of goodwill, after this
2024.
summit that you're hosting, and for everything you're saying, because I understand it's come back to the government, to the minister in charge.
Because we are a legally scrupulous and punctilious country, and there's a planning decision that has to be taken, but I'm not the planning authority. But
it is your government.
But I don't want more coal, and our government doesn't want more coal.
And would you intervene to stop it?
We'll do what's we're legally able to do, but this is a planning decision. And if you look at the reality is we have powered past coal. We will be able to get to net zero energy production, clean energy production, by 2035. We're going ahead with no new internal combustion engine vehicles by the end of this decade. All right, that's going to be like 8 years away by Christmas, by the end of this year. This is an incredible speed to do things. The UK's nationally determined contribution for reducing CO2 is on 68% on 1990 levels. But the reason we have credibility, Christiane, in doing this, you ask about the credibility of the UK,
and I got another one on
is because we've already cut CO2 by how much? 44%.
Okay, that's wonderful.
44% on 1990
But you still won't tell
levels.
me why your government won't intervene to stop the coal in Cumbria, because I understand it's come to Minister, Secretary, however you describe it here, Gove. But in any event, let's move on to Cambo in the Shetlands, off the Shetlands in the North Sea. Your Scotland minister has said, and that is for oil and gas drilling, right? And your Scottish secretary has said, 100% we need to, have it done. We cannot run away from oil and natural gas. Doesn't that fly in the face of everything you're telling me now? That we do actually have to fly away from those CO2
There's a future for hydrocarbons if you liberate the hydrogen from the carbon and you sequester the carbon. That's what we're going to do. We have massive plans for creating green hydrogen and blue hydrogen, and for carbon capture and storage. And so there's an agenda in the UK to be at the cutting edge of new technology to drive change. And yes, of course, the oil fields and the gas fields in the North Sea and in Scotland have been of great importance to our country for decades and decades ago. Again, when I was a kid, and they remain important. But what you're seeing is young people in those industries now moving into the incredible growth of wind farms. And
let me ask you about wind farms. When you were mayor,
they are extraordinary.
When you were mayor,
and if you look at what we're doing, I think we're now the biggest. So the UK, which has only 0.7% of the world's population, or 0.8% of the world's population, is the biggest producer of offshore wind in the world.
When you were mayor,
we are a wind
an
superpower.
Article in the Daily Telegraph, you might have just been before you were mayor, in which you said wind turbines are so puny they could not even rip the skin off a rice pudding. For our viewers, a rice pudding is a very famous English dessert.
It's not just an English dessert, it's a global dessert.
Okay, it's a global dessert.
The
global
whole world
British
eats.
dessert.
Are you saying that the viewers of CNN are unfamiliar with rice pudding? Everybody knows what a rice pudding is.
Okay, so have you changed? You've clearly changed your mind, right?
Yeah,
now
I have. And
wind farms.
I have.
What made you a convert?
Technology. The development in the technology of wind farms has been unbelievable. And so if you look at the sophistication of the nacelles, the turbines now, the size of the turbine, the way they're able to build wings, blades, propeller blades for the turbines that are twice the size of the London Eye, right? So the diameter of the turbines when I'm putting up in the North Sea, twice the diameter of the London Eye. Imagine that. These are enormous creations. They're actually rather beautiful. The issue is what do we do in the North Sea to make sure that they're integrated into the ecosystems? How do we protect the marine life? How do we make sure that birds don't suffer? There are lots of ways of doing that, but you've got a source of long-term, clean, green energy.
So do you think this? I want to ask you one last
And
question
the
on
Dogger
the
Bank.
climate.
And the Dogger Bank, by the way, I just want to give you a geographical fact.
Yeah, I know, but we're running out of time. I don't know what Dogger Bank is.
The Dogger Bank is 6,000 years ago. Britain was connected to Holland by a stretch of land, right, which was called Doggerland, where the Dogger people lived and did whatever they did. And there was then a catastrophe, a cataclysm called the Storega, where there was a landslip, undersea landslide off the coast of Norway, which inundated all of Doggerland. The result is that, to cut a long story short, it's very shallow. And people are always dredging up artifacts from the Dogger civilization. And you can put wind turbines there in great numbers and harvest the very violent winds